this story, again, it's one of those Christmas things that gets under your skin. And also further proof that, indeed, yes, absolutely, no doubt about it, they want it all. They want it all. We go to Prichard, Alabama. Story comes from the New York Times. The story is by Michael Cooper and Mary Williams Walsh. This struggling small city on the outskirts of Mobile was warned for years that if it did nothing, its pension fund would run out of money by 2009. Right on schedule, its fund ran dry. Then Prichard did something that pension experts say they have never seen before. It stopped sending monthly pension checks to its 150 retired workers, breaking a state law requiring it to pay its promised retirement benefits in full. Since then, Nettie Banks, 68, a retired Prichard police and fire dispatcher, has filed for bankruptcy. Alfred Arnold, a 66-year-old retired fire captain, has gone back to work as a shopping mall security guard to try to keep his house. Eddie Ragland, 59, a retired police captain, accepted help from colleagues, bake sales, and collection jars after he was shot by a robber, leaving him badly wounded and unable to get to his new job as a police officer at the regional airport. God, that's pretty awful, isn't it? Guess what? It gets worse. Far worse. Far worse was the retired fire marshal who died in June. Like many of the others, he was too young to collect Social Security. David Anders, 58, a retired district fire chief, said when they found him, he had no electricity and no running water in his house. He was a proud enough man that he wouldn't accept help. And I'm going to go ahead and get this out of my system. They voted for this. Prichard, Alabama is rock-ribbed and Republican. Oh, yeah, baby. Prichard, Alabama is Reagan country, Bush country, McCain country. And they are sowing what they have reaped. It's illegal for them to do this, but they did it anyway. There is a statute that says they have to honor their obligations to their pensioners. But if they followed that statute, they would have had to impose large tax increases. That or make humongous cuts to service, which would have put, it's like that. When Republicans say, we want to cut the budget and cut out the fat in the budget, just not my fat. What they mean is they want to put people out on the street. We need to shrink the size of government down to where we can drown it in a bathtub. What they mean is they want to put people underwater in those bathtubs. That's what happens when you have service cuts. People lose jobs. So the other alternative in order to pay the pensioners would be a tax increase. But Alabamians have so thoroughly bought lock, stock, and barrel the idea that government is evil and taxes are the evil manifestation of evil government taking away my hard-earned money. That they let a man die in a house with no electricity and no running water. They let him die. They've let a 68-year-old retired Prichard police and fire dispatcher file for bankruptcy. They've let a 66-year-old retired fire captain go back to work as a security guard at the mall. See, I don't share the right-wing Republican vision of America where I want people to work until the last breath they take. It's coming. They want it all. They want it all. Because, you see, promises that were made to working people are no longer promises that can be kept because of 30 long years of Reaganism, in which taxation is deemed a bad thing. There's a creeping nightmare in this country. And it's not a nightmare because working people asked for too much and were too generously given to. Pensions are not, they're not going to get you rich. They're just going to keep you from dying in old age poverty. Prichard is the future. We're all on the same conveyor belt. Prichard is just a little further down the road. Because this isn't an economy of scale thing. It's not easier for a small town or easier for a big city or vice versa. Everybody in America gets to go down this road if we don't get busy fixing stuff, and we had just enough people in the United States of America on November the 2nd, 2010 to make sure that we ain't gonna fix squat. The pension plan that Prichard has was established in 1956. Imagine that, 54 years. They could not make it 60 years because they were in Alabama, where predatory conservatism has been the order of the day much, much longer than it has ever been nationwide. And here's the kick. They knew their pension plan was underfunded. West Virginia knows that its teachers' pension plan is underfunded. But they just cruise along, continuing to underfund it, because there's not a politician in his right mind in this political climate who would say, our taxes are too low. Because the minute he or she says that, he or she will cease to be a politician in the following election. Such is the genius of the hate-filled, ignorant messaging of the right wing. You know, this is stuff that encompasses the entire history of so-called civilization and why we banded together into cities in the first place, beginning in the land between the rivers in Mesopotamia. Because we can do more for each other working together as a group than we can individually do for ourselves. But that idea is dead in the red state free market paradise. They knew they were underfunding their pensions, but they would not take the appropriate steps. They would not take the appropriate steps to fund them because those self-same, mostly white folks would howl and go for the pitchforks, and they're raising my taxes. Well, yes, because you like streetlights, right? And you like cops on the beat, right? And you like for somebody to come and put out your house when it catches fire, right? Take note. This is a long story, but it is not a story that is simply a story of Alabama. For as much as these old Confederate states talk about what's wrong with them blue states with them elitist liberals, had liberals been in charge, there's an argument that the retired fire marshal would not have died miserable and alone with no electricity and no running water in his house because liberals believe that that ought not happen to people who have worked all their damned lives. You know, night after night after night, we talk about what the Republicans are doing to this country. But it's not an esoteric exercise. It's real. Because they want it all. They don't just want it in Prichard, Alabama, or Alabama generally, or Georgia, or Mississippi, or Tennessee, or Louisiana, or Kentucky, or North or South Carolina. They want it in New York. They want it in Massachusetts and Maine. They want it in Michigan. They want it in Washington. They want it in Oregon. They want it in California. They want it in Arizona. They want it in Nevada. They want it in Wyoming. They want it in Montana. They want it in Illinois and Wisconsin and Minnesota and Missouri and Arkansas and Kansas and Colorado and Utah and the Dakotas. They want it all, everywhere, every bit, all. And the only thing that has the remotest chance of stopping them is you. You! 60-somethings in the audience, they might, if you're already getting Social Security, they might let you keep yours. But odds are they want it all, and they would be just as happy to take that too. You cannot be paralyzed by your fear. There is a day coming when we are all going to have to walk or waddle or crawl or creep into the streets and tell them they cannot have it all. God, we're willing to compromise. They can have most of it, but they can't have all of it. God, Republicans and teabaggers. I just want the government to quit stealing money. It ain't God. I saw that today on my Twitter feed. They still say that kind of crap, while people in Prichard, many of whom voted for it, now wonder with the batting, almost unseeing eyes of the cow on the way to the slaughter why it's happening to them. This is America. God loves us. Hint, it ain't because of the gays. It ain't because of the liberals. It ain't because of the dark-skinned people. It's the rich. It's always the rich, because they want it all. We'll open up the phone lines, 877-443-2366, 877, the numeral 4, head on your nickel, 304-658-3333. This is the Christmas Eve edition of America's Liberal Voice. Listener-supported, listener-driven. This is the Horn.